Hello YouTube, this is Sudre and Ace Productions. Now, as many of you may know, Wooden Railway is my favorite Thomas merchandise line, and always has been. However, there is another favorite range of mine that I've seemed to overlook. I am of course talking about the ERTL diecast range. Now, I was born in the final months of ERTL's production, so I didn't really have that many ERTL toys. But when I did get them, it was always a treat. So today, I'll be going through my entire ERTL Thomas collection to date. I hope you enjoy. So first off, we have Thomas the Tank Engine. This is one of the few trains from my childhood, and for a kid's toy, it's really detailed. Nowadays, I don't usually see this much effort put into toys. I also have a paper-faced Thomas, which I found at a flea market near my house. This Thomas is just like the previous one, but with a paper face. This was made during the original run of the show back in 1985. The updated version didn't come out until 1990, so this paper-faced Thomas was only sold in the States for about a year or so. I also have the metallic Thomas, which is basically just Thomas with a metallic color. I really like the paint job on this Thomas, and I don't think they do this kind of stuff anymore with Thomas toys. Moving on, next up is Edward. Edward is another great model. Just like with all the ERTL models, he's really detailed. One thing that this range is known for is the accurate wheel configurations they give to the engines. Now, I got Edward later in life, so there's not that many scratches on him. As we go through the video, it will probably be easy to spot which trains are from my childhood and which ones aren't. Now we come to Henry. Henry is my favorite character in the Thomas show, and the ERTL model does not disappoint. I believe the face is based on his appearance in Season 1, but I could be wrong. Now, there are some scratches on the tender that developed when I was a kid, and later down the line, when I was like 14 or 15 or something, I decided to paint his side rod silver for some reason. But anyway, this Henry model is great, one of the best ones in the range. Up next is Gordon. Gordon has to be one of the longest engines in the ERTL range. He's even bigger than Henry. I always assumed that Gordon and Henry were the same size in the show, but apparently I was wrong. Gordon's face is also pretty nice, and I really think they were going for the designs of the first season, like I said with Henry. And next is James. Unfortunately, James's splendid red paintwork has suffered at the hands of 5-year-old me, especially around the tender. But anyway, I really like how James stands out among the rest of the main cast. He's the only red engine in the main cast of characters, and his red paintwork combined with the black wheels look really nice. The face also looks accurate to how James is portrayed on the show. Here's Percy. One thing I don't like about Percy is that he's a bit too big. Like, how is Percy supposed to be bigger than Gordon? I just don't get it. But anyway, this is a solid model, and just like every ERTL model, I really like the detail. Now, I got this Percy in a set with Annie and Clarabelle, and I'll talk a bit more about them later on in the video. I also have another Percy, this one being from my childhood. This Percy has a missing wheel, and I still to this day have no idea what happened to it. Did it like fall off somewhere? I don't know. Here's Toby. Just like Percy, I thought he was a little too big, but he's still a good model. And that's all I have to say about him. Now we come to Duck. Duck has always been one of my favorite characters, and his ERTL model is spot on. I got mine at a train show, and he was secondhand. One thing that GWR Studios pointed out in his video is that the running plate on Duck is supposed to be black, when it is red on this model. I had to look at a picture of Duck on my phone, and his running board is in fact black. But overall, aside from that flaw, this model's great. Oh, hi, laddie! Pardon my terrible Scottish accent. Anyway, here are Donald and Douglas. I really like these trains, but I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the black color that contrasts with the red and yellow nameplates and numbers and the white lines, or maybe it's because of Donald and Douglas's characters, but I don't know. These two feel somewhat heavier than the other models in my collection, but they're still visually pleasing. From one set of twins to another, here are Bill and Ben. Here's another nitpick, but just like Percy and Toby, I feel as though they're too big. And those faces don't look like Bill and Ben on the show. Like, why did they feel the need to outline the mouth and eyes? But I feel as though they're still good. They have a nice yellow paint color which contrasts with the nameplates, and I really like those open caps. And anyway, moving on. Here is Diesel 10 from the infamous Thomas and the Tragic Railroad movie. Diesel 10 was an amazing character, but unfortunately his ERTL model didn't do him justice. It's basically just a repaint of D199 with a huge lump of plastic on the top to portray his claw. The claw's color makes it look like they stuck one of those B-1 battle droids from Star Wars The Phantom Menace on top of Diesel 199, repainted him, gave him a new face, and called it a day. Oh yeah, the face looks pretty nice. Now we come to Old Faithful Skarloey. Skarloey is a narrow gauge engine, so some details on his model are smaller than engines like Thomas or Percy, which I appreciate. One thing I noticed when I was filming this video is that the nameplates and numbers are painted on. I always assumed they were stickers for some reason. But anyway, he's still great. Moving on. Here's Coldy. Coldy was only seen in the Railway series book Mountain Engines. One thing I really like about him is the purple color. I think he's the only purple engine in the Thomas franchise. As a kid, I already knew who he was since I had a copy of Mountain Engines, which I have since lost, unfortunately, but hopefully I'll get another one soon. But one thing that creeped me out as a kid were the two faces. The fact that Coldy has two faces on each end seems so unsettling for some reason. I also had Lord Harry, but I lost him at some point, unfortunately. We move on to the first non-rail vehicle in the collection. This is Thumper from the famous Rusty and the Boulder episode. One thing I notice is that Thumper is huge. He is literally the elephant on the run in my collection, and he's even bigger than Gordon. Due to his size, there's a lot more detail on him, which I appreciate. There's even a small petrol tank on the side, which I think is really neat. Here's George the Steamroller. I got him on eBay later in life. I actually ordered him while watching Thomas 1 Edward 2 Henry III's Engines of Sodor episode about him. In my videos, I use this ERTL George instead of the wooden railway George because it feels as though he's in scale with the wooden trains. Anyway, this model is great. I really like that face, which shows that George is up to no good, as per usual. Here's another item that has popped up in many of my previous videos, the Canal Boat. This is a really charming piece because it was only a background prop in the Thomas show, yet they still made it into a toy. Every time I look at this Canal Boat, I'm always reminded of Rosie and Jim, which is an old British show made with puppets. But anyway, even though I'm a wooden railway person, having this item in my collection just makes the island of Sodor feel more complete. I also have 5 pieces of rolling stock: Annie and Clarabelle, the old coaches, and Henrietta. I got Annie and Clarabelle in the set with Percy, like I mentioned before, and I had the old coaches for a while now. The other 4 passenger coaches are made of plastic, while Henrietta is made of metal, just like the engines. Henrietta is also a bit big compared to some of the other engines. And that makes her fit with like Toby or Percy's proportions, but when I put her behind Thomas, the proportions seem a bit off. It feels like he's pulling a house. And here's a bonus item. This isn't a Thomas item, this is Postman Pat's van, from the classic British stop-motion show Postman Pat. This item was made in 1982, years before the Thomas range was created. Aside from Thomas, I really enjoyed Postman Pat when I was a kid. I got this item on eBay last year, and it has shown some wear and tear in his lifetime, but overall, it's a great model, and I like how Pat and Jess are in the window. It's really cute. And there you have it. This has been my entire ERTL Thomas collection. One thing I find unique about this range overall is the amount of care and detail they put into each model. I see that Thomas toys nowadays don't have the same quality as their predecessors, which just makes them more unique in today's world. This is Sudry and Ace Productions, saying goodbye, and thank you for watching.